Good afternoon, everybody. This is Coach D. Back at it again live, one time for your mind. Fourth episode of Fighting His Life with Coach D. Today we're going to talk about mental illness and depression. Very important subject here. It's something that affects many, affects most. In some cases, in certain points in people's life, it affects all. There are levels to it. There are people that deal with it at a high extreme. There's ones that deal with it at, medium extreme, and there's ones that deal with it at a low extreme. But I think at some point in our life, if we're going to be real and be honest, that everybody has dealt with it in some form, fashion, or way. I want to talk about it because I want to, shed some light on it and even see if I could help people try to handle certain things. There's a lot of things that creates mental illness and depression. There's a lot, there's so many things. And if I sat here and talked about all of it, I'd be here forever. But just to I want to hit on some of the key things and stuff that really causes this stuff and see how we can help each other or help people how to really deal with it, and not only deal with it, but beat it and live, because this is a thing that can handicap and has handicapped and does handicap so many in this world. And a lot of us sometimes are even blind to the fact that we might even have it ourselves. So this is a really, really, really powerful subject, and we want to get into it. Some mental health or mental illness and depression is caused by trauma from childhood. A lot of things that happen in childhood starts the process of this and creates these things as far as like abandonment issues, molestation, mental abuse, physical abuse, bullying, all that stuff that creates self-doubt, insecurities, and the problem of not believing in oneself. This is where we're at. The world is really, there's a lot of people in this world that deal with this stuff. And there's some that's willing to say that they do. There's some that deal with it that don't want to say they do. But I do believe that everybody has at one point dealt with it in a certain way. The thing about it is recognizing it. See, that's the thing, is recognizing it. That is an issue and that is a problem. And once you recognize that is an issue, and once you recognize that it is a problem, then the healing process can start, and we have to, as in everything we do in this world, we have to be real with ourselves and what we deal with. These things, mental illness and depression causes anger. It causes erratic behavior. It causes suicide. It causes homicide. It causes self-isolation. It causes so many of these things that we see that goes on in this world. And what I believe, and I'm going to share this, what I believe is that when you're dealing with that stuff, people think that counseling and medication is the answer. And I personally don't believe that it's the sole answer. I believe that in some cases, in some places, it might help people. It might be the start of helping it, but to rely completely on medication and counseling is something that I believe that in my heart that you shouldn't really rely on, because stuff is medicated. Some of the stuff that they put in this medication also makes things worse and make you sick and actually make, like I said, it makes the condition worse. So I believe that it's and then we got people that say that, okay, this is what we're gonna do. They have all these answers to mental health and depression. All these answers. Read a book, do sports, go walk around, meditate. You know, there's so many things that people tell you that you can do to deal with this stuff. But if the person that is sick and is dealing with it don't really know how to get better, then it's going to be hard for them to get better, regardless of what book they read or what medication they take or what counselor they talk to. It's a self thing that a person has to dig deep inside of who they are and find out what it is that is making them this way. And like I said, the first step is recognizing the problem. I think everybody dealt with it. Even myself, I never considered myself as a person that dealt with those things until in my belief system, who God showed me who I was. And that, man, I had to recognize that I've dealt with those things too. I've dealt with those things as a man too. Now, do I deal with it to the magnitude of others? No. But to recognize the fact that I have dealt with that in certain situations or certain places is the truth. And I believe that, this life is a battlefield. You're not going to get past the stuff that goes on in this world. They're going to be there. Those obstacles and those places are going to be there. So you're going to have to face them, regardless if you want to face them or not. You're going to have to face them. And, the only way you can face these things is if you face yourself. In order to defeat anything in this world, you have to defeat that negative side of you, that bad part of you. You have to defeat that person first. That's the only way that this thing can start healing, and we have to stop looking at other people, other people's problems, other people's ways, and when you do and look at ourselves, that's the person that we have to wake up to every morning. That's the person that we have to go to bed to every night. So we have to take care of that. You have to take care of your mind. You have to take care of your heart. You have to take care of your soul. Your mind is really your best friend or literally your worst enemy. And I think as a human being, we have to decide what dog we want to feed, because both dogs got to eat. And whichever dog you feed the most is the one that's going to get stronger. So you want to feed the bad dog or the good dog, or the bad wolf or the good wolf. And practice makes permanent. I personally, as a man, I'm not speaking for nobody else. I personally don't believe in taking medication. I personally don't believe in, counseling. And let me clear this up. I don't believe in the counseling the way the world says you need to go to counseling. Take this medication, go see this psychiatrist, go see this doctor. It might work for some people. But for me personally, I believe in God. So I believe that counseling comes from my spirit. I believe in talking to people that I know that has my best interest at heart, that knows me, and people that I know that I can speak to about things that I would never be judged about. And I have that, I do have that, and I'm blessed to have that. And I believe that everybody should have that. I believe that we're all put here to help each other. And I believe that if we really buckle down and love one another and help each other, and we all can share our problems and our ideas, that we can come together and help one another. But everybody's not going to do that. Everybody's not meant to do that. and it's just not going to happen. So at the end of the day, you have to truly buckle down and figure out what's going on with yourself. This thing is one big thing, and you got the social media stuff and all that actually like puts more fire to the depression, puts more fire to the mental illness. You know, you cannot relax on this thing at all. You know, every day that you wake up, you have to attack it. You have to attack it by in the mind first, because that's what we do. It's what we think. It's what we think, and we allow ourselves to think, and where we allow ourselves to go in that mind. And a lot of times that manifests to what we do in life, you know, in a physical or sense. So we have to really, really check that, you know. I see it a lot, you know. I want this subject is serious. I see it so much, and I'm around a lot of people that I know that deal with it, and having a spirit of discernment, I can see what's going on in people's hearts and their mind and stuff like that, and it's really a sad thing, you know. And I had to catch myself, because I also realized that I was dealing with it in some form of way, that you know, some of the thoughts that I was thinking, some of the things that I was feeling and stuff like that, I knew wasn't or shouldn't been from a normal mind. But instead of me taking that and making it a handicap, I made it my strength. And that's what we got to do. We got to make something that's handicap us and take it as a strength and battle it and fight it. You know, it's an everyday thing. Do you know the things that cross your mind, the things that cross your spirit every day in this world? This world is full of this kind of stuff. This world is designed to keep people enslaved with their mind. This world is built to keep people enslaved in their spirit, you know, and it doesn't matter how intelligent you are, how wise you are. If you can't get depression and mental illness out your system and you can't get help, then all that stuff is obsolete and all that stuff is invalid. And this is the world that we live in. You know, I'm a people's person, and I'm kind of glad, because I get to deal with people so much on different levels, you know. And I like observing and watching people, and I like listening to them, their stories and all the stuff. And, man, some of the stuff that I see and feel, that I hear, whether it's through a person just, you know, that I'm talking to, or social media, it really breaks my heart that people are so imprisoned by these illnesses. And let me tell you, I think most of the world deal with it. I believe that most of the world deal with it. And that's why, universally, I think that's what was created. I think it was created for people to be in that situation, so that people won't have power. People won't be able to think for themselves, you know, love for themselves, or even love others, you know, love others and do for others and stuff. That's just why I believe that it was created that way. And we have to grab the key. We have to take back that key to our own hearts, and we have to take back that key to our own mind. We have to do that. We have to take control over our destiny. We have to take control over our life, because essentially, at the end of the day, the only person that we can control is ourselves. You know, and anytime you believe that you can control anybody else, or look at somebody else's life, or put your finger on somebody else's life, that's just when you miss the whole thing. You have to look at yourself. You have to understand what you deal with every day as a human being and as a person. You have to do it, you know, because if you don't do it, it'll tear you down. You know, I was watching Rocky V. One of the biggest things that when Mickey was telling Rocky, he said, nature is smarter than what people think. You know, when I was younger, I didn't understand what that meant. I got older, and I totally understand what it meant. Like he was saying, you know, people die from depression. People die from mental illness. Body shuts down. That's what he meant by nature is smarter than what people think. It's the mind. When the mind shuts down, the body can shut down. You have to find a reason to live, and you have to want to live. You have to want to get better. but it all starts with you. It all starts in your head. It all starts with your mind. All of us think of things. All of us think wild things sometimes, but we have to know how to check it and control it before it gets out of control. That's the main thing, is being able to recognize that issue right when it jumps off and say, hold up, wait a minute. This is not right. This is not the way to think. This is not the way to go. And checking yourself. And you have to relive this every day. You have to reinvent yourself every day. You have to reconnect yourself every day. This is not you can't let this thing slip. You can't, okay, one day you're good and then go visit yourself 2 weeks later. No, you wake up with yourself, you go to sleep with yourself, so you have to visit yourself every day. And when you do that, I believe that's what starts to strengthen the mind, because you're constantly in that practice mode. And like we talk about, practice makes permanent. So when practice makes permanent, not perfect, right? I know everybody uses that saying, practice makes permanent, perfect, but I believe no, because no one can be perfect. But I believe practice makes permanent. And you become permanent in being consistent and changing who you are as an individual, because it starts with an individual. If you have children, if you have people around you close to you, you don't want to pass that stuff off to them, And it's a fight. I'm not going to tell you that's not a fight. It's a fight every day. But you have to recognize it. It's so easy to see somebody else's fault. It's so easy to see somebody else's wrongdoing. But how hard is it to look at yourself? The same things, check this out, the same things that you might recognize in somebody else, it's the same thing that you might have to recognize in yourself. Because it's easy to look at somebody else because it takes the blame off you. It takes the accountability off you. But I'll share this with you. Everyone in this world will be accountable for their thoughts and their ways and their actions. That's everybody. That's something that we can't get past. That's a fact. And I believe that you have, so here's the thing. You have one life. You only have one life to live. Now, in that life, there's chances and opportunities that you have, but you only have one life. Once you clock out, that's it. So you got to be careful what you chase. You got to be careful what you chase. A lot of mental illness come from people chasing the wrong things. Money for the wrong reasons. As the new people say, young new people say, chasing the clout for the wrong reason. These are the things that will distract you from becoming the best human being you can be. You have to check that. You have to see that, okay? Because no one else can do it. Worry about the stuff you can control and don't worry about the stuff you can't control. It'll drive you crazy trying to control something that you have no control over. You have control over yourself, your spirit, your destiny, your heart, your mind. That's what you got control over. And the sooner that we all realize that, the better that we'll all be better as human beings. Just think about it. If everybody really took accountability for themselves and not focus on somebody else's life, think about how much farther we'll get. This is a heck of a thing. I think this wasn't done, like I said before, this was not done on accident. You think mental illness and depression was something that just showed up? No. They want to keep everybody enslaved in their mind. They want to keep everybody in prison. Because when you're in prison and enslaved, you don't have nowhere to go. You have to free yourself. Check this out, though. You have to free yourself from yourself. Free yourself from yourself. When you do that, then that's when life begins. One life to live. I'll share this with you. Chase the wrong things that you can't take with you. Why? You can't. You can't take money with you. You can't take clothes with you. You can't take social media with you. You can't take electronics with you. You can't take nothing with you when you go to your grave. There is only one thing guaranteed in this earth, and that is death itself. So while you're here, you want to be mentally healthy as possible. You want to be that for your kids, for your spouse, for people that you're helping. If you're solely on this earth for the selfish reason of looking out for yourself only, then you miss the ship. But in order to look out for others, what you got to do first, you do have to look out for yourself. You do have to get better. You do have to change the things about you and get help for the things that you go through before you can be any good for anybody else. And I know that a lot of people that I know that I deal with or have dealt with deal with this bad mental illness and depression. I mean, close people to me too. People that I know that, and I know people that deal with it not knowing that they actually deal with it. That's the scary thing. That's how trickery this is. That's how tricky it is. I know people that deal with mental illness and depression, and they don't know that they deal with it. See, I had to check myself. I was talking to my dad one time, and I was like, I don't think I deal with depression. I don't think I deal with mental illness and all that kind of stuff. That was one conversation. Fast forward, we had a conversation again, and we were just talking. And I was explaining to him about the stuff that was going on, that I was dealing with. And he said, "You have a form of depression, son." And that was so hard to hear because I took so much dignity in not being that person, so much dignity in not being that human being. And when he said it, although it was hard for me to hear, I accepted it and embraced it as truth and with love. And when I did that, when I got off the phone with him, I sat there and thought about some things. And I thought about some things that I was dealing with, thought about some things that I was going through. And I was like, man, he is right. I have dealt with it. Now, like I said, there's levels to it. I might not dealt with it on the level that other people's dealt with that, but I did deal with it and do. But once you feel it into your mind, once you feel it into your heart, that's when you got to check it. That's when you got to recognize it and catch it before it gets too far. A lot of times we need solitary confinement with ourselves. We need to sit by ourselves. A lot of people can't be by themselves. A lot of people can't hang by themselves because the depression and the mental illness get to them too strong. But you got to be stronger than that. You got to be stronger than that. Okay? So you have to take that time. Sometimes it means sitting by yourself at your house or in your room and praying and meditating and thinking on thoughts of your ways or the things you think about or how you feel. You have to marinate in all that stuff so you can sort it all out. And when you start sorting it all out, you pick out the things that you know was wrong, the things you dealt with, you start sorting it all out, that's when it starts clearing. And that's when the healing processes begin. I'm telling you guys, this is a very thing that we deal with. Social media was created to make things worse. Trust me. And everybody's on there falling right into the path of what they want you to fall into. So you really have to get a hold of your mind. You really have to get a hold of your spirit. You really have to get a hold of your heart. Recognize the problem. That's the first step. Recognizing this is what I deal with. This is what I'm going through. Recognize that, and then you can start the steps to heal it. I personally would say that anybody that takes medication and go to counseling, okay, this is something. Do what you feel is best for you. But my personal opinion is actually dealing with yourself first. A counselor can't tell you who you are. A counselor can't tell you about yourself. Neither can medication. Sometimes medication just confuses and offsets the brain even more. We got to be strong. We got to take our strength back as human beings, as men, as women. We got to take our strength back. And we got to get a hold of it. Face yourself. That's the most important thing. Face yourself. Don't be scared to look at yourself. If you're not scared to face somebody else, if you're not scared to talk down on somebody else, if you're not scared to recognize somebody else's faults and worries, then don't be afraid to look and face yourself. This is the truth as I speak it. I'm living proof. Every day I wake up looking at myself. Durwyn, Coach D, what do you need to work on? What do you need to repent from? What do you need to ask for forgiveness for? Why are you thinking so crazy? For me, my personal outlet is God. There's some things that come to my head. I have a lot of traumatization from what happened to me in my life, but I didn't let that be a handicap. And I'm not going to let it be a handicap. And you shouldn't let it be a handicap either, because I've been through hell and back. But that's what made me. It didn't break me. It made me. And that's what you need to do. You need to take your struggle and make it your strength. That's what you have to do. You got to take your struggle and make it your strength. You have to do that. There's no other choice. Or there is another choice, but we know what that choice does. Do you want to live? Do you want to live? Because I can assure you this. Just because you're walking around with your eyes open and your legs moving, your arms moving, and just because you walk around, your heart still beating, doesn't mean that you're living. Doesn't mean that you're living. Living starts within the soul. Living starts within the mind. Living starts within the spirit. Living starts with yourself. Living starts with change. Self-accountability. If all my people out there that are dealing with depression and dealing with mental illness, take back control of your life. Okay? Pray. Ask for guidance. Ask for direction. Every morning, I got to renew myself. Because during the day, I might see some things that might upset me. I might see some things that hurt me. I'll go through things, whatever it may be. But in that day, I'm constantly in that spirit, listening to God, which is my conscience, talking to God, asking him, what do I need to do? Can you help me? Please help me, because I desire. You have to desire the change, guys. You have to desire to change. You have to desire to change more than life itself. If you don't desire that change, you will not get better. You can't just want it. You can't just think about it. You have to desire. And when you desire, you have to put action behind it. And I promise you, your mind will think better. Your mind will get better. Your life will get better. Your spirit will get better. But nobody has to live in depression. Nobody has to live in mental illness. Nobody. I'm going to say this. Believe it or not, it is a choice. It is a choice. If you have free will, which is what God gave us, then you can get better. I can tell you from experience that I dealt with that. I didn't even realize what it was. I thought I was too cool. I thought I did something I wasn't dealing with, and then God showed me that's what you dealt with. Anger, rage, confusion, self-doubt. I've dealt with all those, but I won't let it beat me because I face myself every day. If you're not willing to face yourself, you can't get better. Don't be a victim. Be a victor. Don't be a victim. Don't allow nobody to make you feel like a victim. You're not a victim. You're a winner. But you got to recognize that. Recognize those problems. Recognize what's going on in your head. Have the free will and the strength to want to change and the desire to change, and you'll change. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. We know it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take some steps, and it's going to take a while. But as long as you're moving forward, you're still making steps. If you do not move, you're stuck. You're just stuck. You can't move standing still. You got to move forward. I don't care if it's a half a step, 1 step, 2 steps. You're moving forward. And as long as you start seeing, and I'm going to tell you this, when you start seeing that progress and start seeing signs of the change that you're making, you're going to want it more. A lot of times the way the world is, a lot of times we're too blind. We're too blind to ourselves. We're too blind to what's going on within ourselves. How's it that we have sight to see what everybody else is going through, what everybody else is dealing with and going or doing, but we're blind to ourselves? That's backwards. Wake up. Wake up. For you do not know your next day. Are we guaranteed right now that when I get off this podcast, am I guaranteed right now to live? No, I don't think so. You're not guaranteed. The very air you're breathing right now. So take advantage of it in a good way. Love yourself. You do that, you can love others. But whatever it is, don't become a slave to it. Depression, mental illness. Find out what you deal with and start changing and look at within yourself, and everything will be okay. You have power inside your heart. You have the will inside your heart and mind. Now, the next step is the desire. Recognizing the problem, having a desire to change, and making those steps. Don't let nobody tell you can't do it. Don't let nobody tell you that you're worthless. Don't let nobody tell you that you ain't nothing, that you're crazy. Don't let nobody tell you none of that. They're going to tell you, they're going to say it, but you don't have to accept it. So, homework is to recognize this problem, desire to change, and it'll make those changes. That concludes episode 4 of the podcast, Fighting His Life with Coach D, Mental Illness and Depression. Bless you.